All right, and we are back. Thank you for staying tuned to Good Morning Kenya. And right now we get into yet another conversation, and that is on conflict resolution in relationships. And speaking about this conversation is one Elizabeth Kenywa. She is a life coach. We know that in relationships, conflicts are inevitable, but how do you go about resolving these conflicts? Madam Elizabeth, welcome to Good Morning Kenya.
Thank you so much for
We're
having
glad
me.
to have you,
Thank you.
on board. When we talk about conflict resolutions, what are we talking about?
Conflict resolutions, first and foremost, is finding out where they emerge from. They emerge from the differences we come with on board when we are relating. Bearing in mind, human beings are relational beings, right? And that's how we are created. So we cannot live in isolation, whether it's where we live in the estates, where we work, or even, you know, in the spaces that we find ourselves in. So you find we come in with our own opinions, our own, you know, outlook of life based on even where you're brought up. That's where it all begins, where you're brought up. So I view you differently based on where I come from. So right there we can have a conflict. Number two, even the way I am raised and the way the other person is raised can also be a source of a difference, and that can trigger conflicts in any relationship. And as you've said, it cuts across all relationships, work, marriage, and even where we live, all across. That can affect how we relate. Again, we also have the issue of expectations. What are the expectations I have? If it's a relationship of a husband and a wife, then I have probably too much expectations on the other person and they're not delivering, and there we can get into a conflict. So there are many things that can trigger conflicts in a relationship, and people need to know well where it's all coming from, then they're able to resolve it. Yes.
How do we ensure effective communication in order to avoid conflicts?
Effective communication. One of the ways to resolve conflicts, as I say, is effective communication. And effective communication comes from me being heard and giving you a chance to be heard. As well. Okay? And so I have got to isolate Vivian from the problem, for me to clearly hear what Vivian is saying about the issue. So conflict comes in when I plug together Vivian and the problem. So Vivian is this brown lady, so the problem somehow is also tagged to her color and everything. So the minute I'm able to say, Vivian, this is Vivian, and this is the problem, I'm able to communicate effectively my feelings and say, Vivian, you've hurt my feelings. That way then Vivian is able to listen to me, empathize, feel my point, and then you're able to address the problem. So as you communicate, I communicate. But the problem comes is, how do we even communicate? Because sometimes we are on top of the roof. Okay? So I'm angry. I'm angry at Vivian. Probably we differed on some finances. I'm not a spender. You're the one who doesn't spend much. You're the one who follows the budget. Just using it as an example. So right there, I hit the account and it's negative, or it's 0-0. I'm on top of the roof. Where do I begin? From there, I naturally will expect you to cock your gun and be ready to fire in terms of, you know, your anger, emotions, and defense will rise. So that's why we are saying, just pause down, breathe in, breathe out, and speak. Attack the issue, not the person. Yes.
Is that how we avoid misunderstandings during the disagreements?
That's the safest way to avoid those misunderstandings when you're dealing. Communicating, attacking the problem and not the person. And equally giving them the chance to express themselves, and you feel them. You empathize, you feel what is their concern. Because to me, for example, let's go to a home setup. This guy walks in and he doesn't really know where the round basket is, quote unquote. So he places his socks everywhere. It is irritating me, right? So I have the option of saying, kindly, I am not happy with where you're placing these socks. The second option of communicating it is like, when you leave a LAN. Okay, so if I take the second route, what do you think he's going to respond? He's going to fire.
Also going to be annoyed
equally, build a war, ready to attack, and so there we go. So the first one, the first approach is where you breathe in. It doesn't come easy, by the way. It's one of those things that you've got to keep learning and learning and learning constantly before you get to the place of, I can communicate about this.
Yeah.
But also don't forget, there are those that you have to click ignore. Okay? You know, this is a battle worth fighting. This one is not
really
worth
not
fighting.
Yeah.
This one is worth raising an issue about. This one is not. Again, it comes with time. Because if you've worked with this person or you're in this relationship with this person, you've constantly mentioned about the socks.
Yeah.
It's not working. And then you have an issue where he stepped out of your relationship. Which one will you attack?
Of course, you'll go for the other one, you know.
So don't sweat the small stuff sometimes. To avoid these conflicts, you just click ignore and you move.
So sometimes you just have to let things pass.
There are things you have to really let go.
Yeah, to avoid conflicts.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, it really matters how you approach the situation, you know, and how you communicate about it. Because there's a way you can say it that will work really well, but then there's another way that you can still say it, and then it would, you know, cause someone to be fired up, you know. So it also really depends on how you speak things out. What is the importance of active listening?
Active listening brings you to the place where you're able to pick the issue. What is the issue in the midst of all this that is being said and done? Fortunately or unfortunately for this gender that we are seated here, we network. Everything is networked. So we've got also to be very careful, especially if you're communicating now to a man, to be able to address an issue after another. So he is able to listen that here we are dealing with money matters. Okay? And so what is the problem with the money matters? I spend too much. I don't follow the budget. That is the issue. But when you connect everything together, from how he walked out in the morning, he never said good, have a good day, you know, the way he threw his shirts and everything there. So you interconnect and he's left wondering, so what issue
am I supposed to
addressing here? But for us, we're able to handle all of them somehow. By the grace of God, we can be able to handle the issues, 5 of them together. And then I'm able to pick, this is a problem. For the other gender, they are gifted to just pick one. However, we will not misuse that and put everything together. So it's good to train ourselves to address the issue as it is. But always remember, all issues are not to be brought on the table. We want to go back there again.
Like pick your fight.
Yes. It's not everything that you really want to keep your relationship on a roller coaster.
But what if it's really irritating you and it's something you've said over and over and over
For
again?
example?
Like the issue of the socks that you were talking about. It may seem like a really, really small matter, but could be really irritating someone that, you know, how can I keep telling you this thing over and over again? It's simple. It's simple mathematics. You pick it, you remove it, you put it in this particular basket.
You know, right from when we are brought up, I want to give you a very funny analogy. Probably when a lady is growing up, they are taught that you've got to, when you have a cold, pick a handkerchief and blow your nose and fold your handkerchief. Your partner, brought up in a different setup, was told, you have a cold, my dear son, squeeze one nose, breathe in, breathe out, and the stuff is out. Okay? So right there you met 2 people with different outlook of the same issue. So do you think you're going to change this person?
Of course not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when people, that's why relationships are for mature people who can understand that Vivian, this is how she does life. I may not really change her overnight, but I can influence gradually and slowly how to do it. Okay? That is where the relationships now, you're able to hack them. That Vivian comes from this perspective and outlook of life. I'm from this particular one. So how do we merge? If you found yourself in that setup, will you keep forcing this person to use a handkerchief? But what you have to do is, with a lot of grace, let them know that when you're in a public place, this one works best. cheer them and encourage them, you know, attack from a point of, if you did it this way, perfect. Not like, why are you doing like this?
Yeah.
That makes the whole difference.
Yeah. And probably during a disagreement, how do you ensure that the other person feels heard and understood? You know, say in the case and scenario of two partners, you know, a couple, how do you ensure that your partner feels seen and understood and heard, even in an argument?
Going back to active listening, because Vivian, when I actively listen, I'm able to, and I genuinely am able to isolate Vivian from the problem. Then I'm able to tell, this girl is not comfortable with me misusing the funds and not following the budget. So what do? I respond and tell Vivian, I think I've heard what you're saying. Our issue is the use of the resources that we have. Then this is how you're able to tell you've been heard. How can we go about it? How I respond will tell you whether you've been heard or ignored. If someone comes and tells you, I'll deal with it, that person has dismissed you. But when they bring you on board seeking your help to be able to overcome the challenge that is causing the conflict, definitely you know you've been heard. If someone is complaining you've put on a lot of weight, and by the way, men, you're not encouraged to tell women they have put on weight to bring issues. And the lady goes like, so how can you help me to manage this situation? Right there, Vivian, you know you've been heard. And then this person is kind enough to try and seek your opinion in me being part of the solution. So right there, we want to walk the journey together. The other person is overspending money, and you've raised the issue. And then they go like, so how can you help me to manage this? Then we sit down and say, let's follow the budget, or let's have a budget. Let's have the limits of how much we can spend per day, or per month, or per week. Proper communication. You speak, I listen, and I empathize. Then I'm able to pick and know that I'm being heard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you feel like some of these issues should be communicated, like the issue of money, you know, like really important matters, should be talked about while people are courting? Now I'm talking about in a couple situation. Is it more advisable to speak about these things from the beginning when you start courting, instead of asking someone, what's your favorite color, what's your favorite meal? We go deep into those conversations of, you know, when you get married, who do you expect should be footing this bill, that bill? How do you go about? Do you feel this would help resolve or in avoiding some of these conflicts that we get to hear about in marriages?
I always tell young people, when you're taking that coffee for the coffee dates, you're zeroing down on this person and trying to assess whether you're ready to progress this relationship to the next level. So what are you gauging? Are you just enjoying the coffee, or are you being smart enough to ask the critical questions? It is in asking the critical questions that you go back again now and assess and ask yourself, how did they respond to this? Am I able to pick any signs that can tell me I need to walk away or stay in? So don't just look for colors. I mean, colors will not threaten your relationship. Talk about the real things. Talk about money. Because when it comes to money, you find that probably one person, their relatives, they have more relatives that need the resources more than the other side. Okay, so how do we go about it? That one, sometimes I tell people, go for that serious coffee date with a pen and a paper, or record what you need to record on those critical issues. Okay? Ask this person. Dig deep. Are they the only people financing their family? Because you find there's that one child in a family who is the redeemer.
Who's the breadwinner of the entire family.
And there are 6 siblings. They are the firstborns. Then you go and ask yourself, okay, what am I getting myself into in this particular case? Okay. Then you also assess the person, they don't have a job, and especially for gentlemen. I am the old school of don't even proceed with that relationship if the lady you're paying the bills, if you're paying the bills every now and then, that's a danger sign.
But nowadays, I mean, we're being taught to build with the person.
You know, look, what are you building? You will build and someone else will come to do internal deco.
There's that. But I'm trying to look at a situation where you've fallen in love with this young man.
Very true.
They are not financially capable at that particular point, or financially stable at that particular point, but everything else, they're ticking every other box. Should that be reason for you to like say, okay, to the left, I'm out? Should that really be reason enough, or what to look at?
Some of the issues that cause people even to separate and even proceed with divorce, one of them is finances. Of course, there are others, but one of them is finances. And if you look even at the statistics, finances are the major sources of conflicts in relationships.
Yeah, it's higher than infidelity.
Yes. I don't know whether a lady would be willing to walk the journey of supporting a gentleman all through. Because I personally believe, and I'm an advocate of, a man should be a hunter. Okay? The woman should sit and wait to be hunted. So why are you running? Where are you going to? You will eventually be caught by the hunter. So play your game. Stay where you're supposed to be. But now, as you're saying, we're having a scenario of the roles have changed.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you know why they have changed? Because one, the ladies now no longer bring home the bread. They own the bakery. So we have empowered the woman.
Yeah.
So she owns the bakery. Who is working on that in that bakery? The guy that you're in love with. So it's a tricky balancing act. We cannot say do away, but I simply say make sure you listen to this person. Again, going to those coffee dates. Don't go with the goosebumps only. Oh, I love you, baby, honey, I love you, I love you. Those goosebumps cannot sustain a relationship, by the way.
Yeah, cool down.
It's when the rubber meets the road. We have bills to pay.
Yeah.
Who's going to pay them? Because there will be bills to be paid, right?
Yeah.
There is life even after the wedding. There's going to be mega weddings. You know, these days it's big about mega weddings, and you know, people talk about them, which is neither here nor there.
Yeah.
So speak about the elephant in the room.
Let me ask you, this elephant in the room that you're mentioning, what are some of the most important things to talk about in order to avoid some conflicts in future?
When you're going out for the dates, speak about the money.
Money.
Speak about children, because children come and children may not come. Is your relationship gone when you have no children? Speak about how you'll handle your in-laws, because you're coming with your in-laws. Excess baggage. I have my in-laws. Each one of us have got in-laws. So how do we handle them? How much do they come?
All right, just hold it right there. Let's take a break, and then we'll be back to continue with this conversation. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now, before we took that break, Liz, you were just talking about some of the most important things to address, you know, just to try and avoid some conflicts in the future. This is when you are courting, you know, when you're in that dating stage. And you mentioned money, children, in-laws. Yes, pick it up from there.
The next thing you'd want to look at is have time to share your dreams and your ambitions. And then that gives you an opportunity to assess whether you want to proceed with the relationship. Because and then also gives you an opportunity to know where you can synchronize and cheer each other, support each other towards getting there. It will also help you to assess your insecurities, because, for example, if you share with your partner that one day you want to be the president of Kenya as a lady, the guy will go and assess and ask himself, okay, do I want to be in the background, completely forgotten? What are the insecurities that come with that? And that's when sometimes when people share their dreams, one partner fizzles out because they have realized, I can't catch up. I can't match up with the speed that this person wants to go. So it's good to share your dreams, your ambitions, let them be known very clearly. Again, address your religious issues. Where do you get spiritual nourishment from? Because that is key even in sustaining relationships. You can't just choose to do relationships, as I said, based on the goosebumps, the feel-good feelings, and forget that there's an important space, which I call is usually almost 80% that sustains the relationship, your spiritual foundation. So where will we be getting that nourishment from? Should we proceed with this relationship to the next level? I think those are some of the major things that I always say we need to address. And of course, if there are previous issues, if you have like a child, you need to bring it on the table, or children, because there are people who hide the fact that I have had a previous past, which probably may not be what the other person would want to deal with. So put it on the table and let them know, by the way, I have 2 children. Are you able to eat the cow and the tail, or the tail only? Which one are you ready to deal with? Then they're able to go and assess and say, I'm not sure I'm ready to take care of somebody else's child, and bid each other goodbye and trust God for another relationship.
I'm glad that you talked about those, because sometimes we just get into it without having, known some of these things, and then later this is where the conflicts come up, and now we have to sort conflict resolution techniques. Now, maybe what are some of the techniques in ensuring that you stay calm when speaking about very sensitive issues?
Is there a technique? It's simply mastering the art slowly. Some personalities will get there faster than the others. Okay. The quiet, calm, composed personalities, the introverts, somehow seem to have it together. They're able to give you the time to express yourself, to be able. But what you also need to understand is that deep down, their emotions, the weak side of it is that if they choose to leave a relationship, they leave, and they have no reverse gear. Okay? Now, this outgoing personality seems to be flaring up and jumping everywhere. So those are the people we need to be addressing and telling them, learn how to calm down. And I think I'm one of them. It is not easy. So if anyone tells you you will get there ASAP, it is not easy. So be intentional about it. Okay? Be intentional, give yourself time. If you have to, take a walk and reflect on what is the issue here. The issue is not the person, this is what we need to address, and when you come back, you're more calm. The introverts really may not struggle with that, but the extroverts, they will definitely do. So learn, be intentional, take a walk, as I have said, if you have to take a walk. Learn to just isolate. And another thing is, sometimes you've got to do life expecting that the unexpected can happen. The unexpected is those things that are causing the conflicts. So the minute you're open to that, then you're able to give yourself room and say, well, life can happen. Life can change. So what do? I'll not be miserable. I'll not choose to be miserable. Okay? So if the other person chooses to walk away and have another relationship, I can over-dramatize issues and try to commit suicide. Alafu? So assess and ask yourself, is it even worth the extremes? Again, the mastery of this also comes with age, where you're able to sit down and ask yourself, is it worth even being mad about this? A problem that a 40-year-old will not dramatize about, a 24-year-old will be in hospital having tried to commit suicide. A 40-year-old will look at it and go like, okay. That's why you find our mothers in the village, they're able to handle so much, and you're wondering, why are you still composed? Why are you still looking like you're okay, you're fine with it? Because they have learned to calculate, take time to process the info, not attack the problem immediately, but take time. Because time is also a healer. Time is a healer. So give it time sometimes.
And you say that there are some things you just need to just let them go, you know, and there are people who are not really into communication. You know, you try raise an issue with them, and most of the times they just sweep things under the rug. What is the, I mean, sweeping things under the rug, is that one of the solutions of solving conflicts?
It's a problem on its own.
Talk about it.
It means there's a bigger problem. Because by the time I don't want to address issues, I'm either dealing with, I have had a previous bad experience with this same person or other people. So what is my defense mechanism? I shut. I simply shut. Does it mean I'm not hurting? I am hurting. The problem of just, you know, piling it up is that the day you will have an outburst, it will be something that you can't even imagine, even yourself later, whether I'm the one who did this. So it is not advisable too, but when you find someone again sweeping it, as I said, there's a bigger problem. They've been hurt before, so this is their coping mechanism. They're hurting. It's a coping mechanism, but they need to get help now. That's why you tell people, seek help. Someone else, a third party, let them get to hear you out. Let them get to listen to you. Probably they'll sober you up and tell you, by the way, you're overreacting of a non-issue. Then you wake up to the reality. Tell them, they're able to pick that probably in your childhood there's a trauma you went through. Because some of these issues are from how we were brought up. If your parents or you had a very traumatic experience growing up, then what was your defense mechanism? Just watching things happen, not addressing them. And so I would be very scared if I'm in a relationship with someone who doesn't like facing the issues and doesn't like them discussed. I would be very worried.
And when do we get to that point where we decide as a couple that, okay, we might need external help?
Sometimes the frequency of the conflicts. Because if the two of you are not able to handle these issues, or you can tell us the frequency. We are either repeating the same issue, or we are in too much of this cycle of we are in conflicts, we get out of it, then we get into another conflict, then we get into it. It's actually emotionally draining, very emotionally draining. And the way God has wired our system, at some point, your antennas will tell you, danger zone, we need help. But are the two of you willing to seek help? That's why you find more women seeking help than men, and men opting to simply shut or get involved in some weird behavior. But the thing is that don't ignore that inner intuition telling you, we need help at this point. We need help. Yes.
And where do we draw the line between giving each other space? Because sometimes they say in conflict, in trying to resolve conflict, you try give each other some space and some time to just cool it off first before you get into it. So where do we draw that line between giving each other space and avoiding the misunderstanding or the matter at hand? Because there's a thin line there. You can decide you're giving each other space, and you've given each other space, like space. And you can decide you're giving each other space, and then you avoid this matter completely.
Yes.
Where do we draw that line?
As you've said, avoidance is a problem on its own. Okay. So you're ignoring the fact that, probably, for example, you're hurting. This person has hurt you, and then you're also giving them the space to continue doing the same. So I call it mutual agreement, that we agree, you know what, we're having this issue. Remember, you're two consenting adults, okay? And you want this relationship to grow. You want it to progress. You want to nurture it. So we need to agree to disagree. And so you mutually agree, can we address this issue later? Fine. It is not only one person who needs to be the one speaking and setting the pace in a relationship. That again is a problem, because then that's why you're able to tell, am I part and parcel of this relationship, or am I the baggage in the relationship? So it cannot be, it's only when Vivian says we need time when it happens. But when the other person says it cannot happen, it is my way or the highway, then right there's a problem. So it's a mutual agreement where you say, fine, this is the issue. We are not able to go around it. Can we give it time? And we go like, fine, let's give it time. But it's not every other problem that you need to give indefinite time. There has to be a cap in terms of time. Let's look at it in the evening, okay? Or let's talk about it in the morning. Or let's talk about it over a cup of coffee. But there has to be a limit and a mutual agreement as to when you're going to resolve the issue. And I always say, it is not every metal that needs to be hit when it is hot. Sometimes you've got to wait for them to cool down to hit them. Yeah.
There's another matter that I get to hear people talk about. You know, they say that in a relationship, when we're in a relationship, when two people are in a relationship, you should avoid external, we call them forces. You know, these are friends, your family members, maybe the in-laws, colleagues. You should avoid bringing them into your conflicts. How true is that?
It is true and not true. True in the sense that if it depends with who is the third party. If you're two people that are married, for example, I'm married to this gentleman, and of course I am married for 18 years now, going to 19.
Congratulations.
And the only person I can speak to when we have a problem is my mother. Is a problem. Because I have already tampered with how my mother views this other person. Okay? So that's why I say I would not advise anyone to take that route. If you need a third party to be involved, get a neutral person. A neutral person in terms of, if you walk down the aisles, you had a best couple.
Yeah.
Again, we come to a generation that doesn't value a best couple. So you pick a young girl who has never tasted marriage. He picks a young man who has never tasted marriage but can dance well for 2 hours, right? Then you hit the rubber meets the best
couple from, you know, who can dance best.
Yeah, you know, that's the things people look out for. The one that can dance very well, the one whose the clothes can fit very well, you know, the curves are in place, are still in place. But then you forget that there are some realities that come with marriage, and heavy ones for that matter. So that's why I'm saying look for a neutral person. Begin from that best couple. A neutral person that the two of you agreed should walk with you this journey. You have your spiritual leaders. You have even professional counselors that can walk with you this journey. Friends, danger zone. Relatives, danger zone. No go zone. Actually, if you mess around, that girlfriend you're pouring out your issues to will take over the government soon.
Overthrow the government of the day.
Yeah, because you're expressing the weaknesses, and so they're building on it, they're able to build on it, and before you know it, they're in.
Yeah, so it's best to work with people who are, like you've said, like they're from outside, yes, but neutral. They are not, they're neutral. They're not, they would not lean on either side.
Yes, and people who have also experienced
marriage. They've experienced marriage as well.
So there's no way in my 18 years I can go to seek advice from someone who's been married for 5 years. That would be completely
Is it different how conflict is resolved in marriages based on the years the people have been together? Can you, like, if you look at some of the conflicts you used to have when you were 6 years into the marriage and the conflicts you have now, would you say that it gets better with time, or it even gets worse when it comes to conflict?
Let me answer you this way. We, all of us, have these smartphones, right? And the battery runs out very fast sometimes. So they give you a notification that you're running, your battery is draining. So sometimes you engage energy saving mode. When you engage energy saving mode, most applications will not work because you're saving on your energy because your battery is going down. If you're really in your 40th year in marriage, your energy levels are, you will not fight over socks. If anything, you wake up and pick them and put them in the right place, and life goes on. So the minute you engage energy saving mode, when you're 3 years in marriage, 1 year in marriage, all your applications are working. That's why I gave you the analogy of the phone. All of them are working. So you're able to pick the small stuff, get annoyed because of the small things. But as you get older, you get maturer, you realize, my peace is paramount, as someone said somewhere, hashtag peace is paramount. That is not worth fighting for. So yes, as you progress, maturity checks in, and then you have understood this person better. You know, even if you scream, they will never change on this particular area. So simply embrace them as they come. Yeah.
No one is perfect. All right. Let's talk about compromise. I believe it was what you were talking about actually right now. It's kind of related to that. So when we talk about compromise, what are we talking about?
A compromise is, again, I love giving analogies. If you love eating githeri and you walked into this marriage, the other guy doesn't love githeri, loves rice. So what do? You can't cook rice 24/7, 7 days a week. Neither will you cook githeri and deny yourself that. So what you do, you can have your githeri, add some rice, then as you're serving the food, you have githeri on one side and your rice on the other side. That's a matter of compromise. So each one of you is taken care of. Now we walk into relationship with different needs. Different needs, ambitions, expectations, and all that. So a healthy mutual relationship is where I'm able to pick, this is what Vivian's values in life. I may not really agree with what she values, but as long as it's not interfering with my belief system, is not, crossing the boundaries of respect in a relationship, then I'm able to hit a compromise on that particular area. Okay? So I don't want to say it's a 50-50, but let's say it's a give and take. It's kind of a give and take kind of situation where, fine, Vivian, you want to pursue your master's, the children are still young, so how do we go about it? So can you do long distance learning as opposed to going for evening classes? If I was to take a stand, I would say, Vivian, forget about the masters. But I hit the compromise and try to bring a solution of, you can do either an evening class or a long distance learning, because there are those institutions that will offer you distance learning model, that we're able to now take care of the children. So it's, I listen to you, compromise where I listen to you. I may not fully agree with what you're saying or what you want to do, but then we come to the neutral place of, I can accommodate this far, whatever you're suggesting, and the other person the same way.
Is it paramount for every couple to have a problem-solving technique?
Problem-solving techniques. For me, I think a problem-solving technique.
And what are some of these problem-solving techniques?
Well, I think people look at it differently and view it differently. I listen to couples and some of them say, well, for us, we can never go to bed.
Annoyed at each other.
Annoyed at each other. Others say our bedroom is not the war zone. Others say, all those things. But there is the place where you, humanly speaking, you don't cross borders when it comes to conflict resolution. I can't come to a public place, to the office space, and try to imagine that's where I'm going to solve my conflicts. So there needs to be an agreement of how far is too far. We are in the era of social media. Do I need everybody to know that this morning we had an argument with my spouse? Again, we sit down and say, when we have a problem, kindly, this is how far we can go. And this is how we can work around it. So yes, every couple somehow can try and figure out, this is our model. This is what works best for the two of us. So another couple can choose to adopt it and modify it, make it better. But as you're copying, don't copy everything like copy and paste. Copy and paste. Be careful what you're copying, what your mentor couple is doing. You can copy it, modify it to suit the two of you. Yes.
How important is it to have a mentor couple in relation to conflict resolution?
Not just conflict, but basically doing life. When you have the person that has been there, that has seen it, I always say they have actually acquired a human life degree called I have seen it. I have watched it, and it has happened. So they have graduated from small life issues, you know, like the struggles of life. Probably one is struggling, you know, with a baby who is not sleeping at night, and they're thinking that the world will remain like that forever. But then you talk to an older person and they tell you, relax, within 2 years, 3 years, everything is back in place. You find mothers who don't want to breastfeed because they have been told that, you know, a lot happens when you start. You speak to an older lady and they tell you, we're here, we breastfed, and life is normal for us after a short period of time. So yes, those who've been there, those who've done life before you are able to tell you where the warning signs are. And as someone said, they're able to point out the landmines that you may step on and tell you, avoid this one, and you're able to do life better, minus. So you're actually working on the experience and working on the experience to avoid the landmines that can destroy your relationship. Yes.
Still on conflicts, how do you set boundaries when having a conflict, or how do you set boundaries in conflicts, and is it possible to actually set boundaries in a conflict? Not beforehand, you're already in this disagreement. How do you set boundaries?
You don't set boundaries when you're already in the conflict. You prepare before. That's why I said.
But there are some that just find you.
Yes, but your tactics, going back to the dating, the things you discussed is my belief system and my boundaries, that you cannot push this far. If you push beyond this, then you'll have crossed the line. Okay, so you can't force the other person, now that you're in the heat of the moment, to be, you know, to come in and it is your way or the highway. Again, understand boundaries are key, not only in conflict resolution, but don't set boundaries when you're at that heat of the moment, because you know what, I might be the one desiring to win in that conflict. For example, if a guy has walked out of a relationship and we try to go like, hey, you've overstepped my boundaries, you know what he'll do? Defense mechanism, attack and play the blame game. Oh, you know, you're never there for me, blah, 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 and all that stuff. So prepare yourself early enough. This is how we would want to handle issues when they rise. We've already said there are couples that handle things like, we don't go to bed with this relationship. We don't address our issues from the bedroom. We don't. And if a third party has to be involved, then at this point, before we cross our borders of respect, then we need to seek help from a third party. But when all of you are flaring up, I'm not sure that's the time to set the boundaries.
Yeah, it might be difficult.
Very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's possible to set boundaries.
But at that point, it is possible outside, when the two of you are sober.
Yeah.
When the two of you are sober, that's the time to say, should this happen, should we find ourselves in a conflict, then how do we go about it? We have to attack the problem and not the other person. You must be in a position where you're feeling hard. We must be in the place where I'm not working towards winning. Because it's a win-win for the two of us, okay? So it's not about me winning the game. Let me call it a game all the time. So when you have that at the back of your mind, is that we must agree to disagree. Fine. So at this point, I must be heard. Once again, I repeat, I must be in a place where I have completely feeling safe. I can be vulnerable. Because then if I'm not vulnerable again, I choose to hold back.
Yeah.
And I'll not speak about anything. I'll let things pass. Kill myself internally before I die physically. Yes. So speak about them where the atmosphere is very good.
Yeah.
And you're addressing them, should we have conflicts? Because they'll occur. Human beings are human beings. Even between our siblings, parents, and conflicts are inevitable. As you began the show, you say they are inevitable.
Yes,
so if they're inevitable, then there is a way you need to have a backup plan of how to handle or to attack.
So it's good to foresee it. You know that these are some of the things that might come up, you know, matters conflict in the future. So how do we go about this if it comes up? How do we go about this if it comes up?
Yes.
That's what you're saying.
Yes.
You should do that beforehand.
For those coffee dates, those are the things to talk about.
We still go back to the coffee dates.
Yes.
All right. So there are people who have non-negotiables.
Yes.
And you speak it out, you know.
Which everyone should have their
yes, non-negotiables. And you've put them on the table. I've given you my non-negotiables. You've given me your non-negotiables. And we know that this is a no-go zone. When you do this, then there's no way we're going to be in good terms, you know. We're going to have a conflict, and probably it might force me to, you know, out or leave the door, you know. When we get to that point where now non-negotiables are being touched, is there a way to solve such conflicts where I clearly told you my non-negotiables and you went against them knowing too well that this is a non-negotiable, so if I do it, I might get into conflict with this person who's my partner, or I might even lose them. So when non-negotiables are touched, how to go about
when non-negotiables are touched, first and foremost, is the person willing to hear you out and remind them that I think we already presented to you that this is my non-negotiable. But allow me to go back first. Most who are addressing the ladies, the younger ladies, I don't know whether it's out of desperation or lack of knowledge. You find someone throwing themselves into a relationship, you know, I'm here. Take me to the left, I go. Take me to the right, I go. Just say how high I have to jump. No, say jump, and I'll ask you how high should I jump. So the pride of every person in a relationship should go in with, one, this is my non-negotiable. Everything else we can manage.
So it's a must for every person to have.
For me, I say if you want a healthy relationship, kindly walk in with some. Because then you're not walking in like a random chicken, looking for help, or an internally misplaced person looking to be just assisted by anybody. You know, you take anything. If you're desperate, you can take anything. If you're desperate, I can eat githeri, I can eat omena, even when I don't eat omena, I can because I am simply hungry. And that's why they also say don't go shopping for food when you're extremely hungry. Because you end up eating the wrong things, accommodating everything. Because this person, you walk in with your respect. The other person, you respect them. What do you respect? You respect their non-negotiables. I'll not even put very many of them. For example, I value church. Okay? So you can't wake up one morning and say nobody's walking out of this house to go to church. Like how? I already told you, for me, my spiritual space is what I value most. So should even be in that most heated kind of argument, this one never cross the lines on this one. Okay? I come from a place where for example, your parents were not one of those, you know, very nice kind of parents, and you don't like them being mentioned in a heated argument, but you realize some people, once you give them that, your background, they use it. No wonder you behave like this. You come from a dysfunctional family, That, I will tell you beforehand, is non-negotiable. When we have an argument, keep my family out of it. If you insist, I'll simply take an action on this one. Of course, not drastic action. We're talking of mutual agreements, not drastic actions. So you've got to walk in with, this is what I expect in this relationship. My boundaries are this far. These are my non-negotiables. Yes, I come from a vulnerable family, but please don't judge me from that particular place.
So when one touches that,
when one touches that,
how do
quickly
you go
look for a
about
third party.
that?
For me, I say look for the third party. Quickly. Quickly. Do you have an accountability group? Because then again, when people do relationships, they want to assume, you know, I love this person, and go, no. I always say look for an accountability group also. Your same peers that can call this person to order. You're not reporting them, quote unquote, but then you're presenting the issue on the table and say, by the way, this person has done 1, 2, 3 things that I feel have affected and are affecting me emotionally, psychologically, because I already told them they are non-negotiable. If I walked into a relationship with children already, you can't be addressing the issue and attacking the issue of my children when we are at the heat of the moment. It is not fair. So should you touch their ones and you apologize for it, you do it a second time, I don't think you're sorry, because your apology should be accompanied by actions that reflect that you're remorseful, and you will not get there again. So yes, I would take time and hear them out. We speak it out. If they can't, I'll look for the third party. Yeah.
Do you feel like the younger generation are not really good with problem solving or conflict resolution, specifically when we're talking about people who are in a marriage? Do you feel like the younger generation now, because we were talking about earlier on, we said there are things that you maybe saw your mother or grandmother going through and you wonder, why are you still holding on to this relationship? I mean, I already am seeing, like, you know, from looking at it myself, I just don't get why you're still here. Do you feel like the younger generation now are slow to, I don't know if I could call it anger, or we are just not ready to
Is it
problem
slow to anger
solve?
or quick to anger?
Quick to anger, rather. Do you feel like we are quick to anger and we're just not ready to solve conflicts? Is that the case?
Let me take you back to the mobile phone. When your phone is at 99% full charge, all your applications are on and working. But when your phone is at 15%, you activate the energy saving mode. All of them now, most of them, you're just left with the basics. I can call or I can text, but I cannot go to Snapchat, WhatsApp, and all these other applications that will be draining my battery. So yes, when people are younger, they want to address everything and attack anything, and two, they also don't want to consult. They want to do life, you know, the way I think, forgetting that consultation is key. There are those who've been there. They are teachers. That's why even we go to school. You know, we go to school to do what? To polish ourselves, to eradicate some level of ignorance, for someone to sharpen us and make us better. But are they willing to listen? Because when you speak, they go like, hey, that's old school.
Yeah, because nowadays we call ourselves the woke generation. We are woke. We know better.
Woke to what? Woke to foolishness or wisdom?
We know better than what our parents used to know. So
that's where the lie is. The lie is in the place that the younger you are, you know more. But then life slaps you with the reality that the younger you are, the less you know. The only thing that is an advantage is that you have some level of exposure the older generation did not have. You have internet, social media space, which is speaking so loudly. Okay? But what is it saying? What exactly saying? Because what you consume, you are what you eat. That's what they say. You are what you eat. So if you eat fast foods 7 days a week, you just need to eat it for 3 months. Your body will tell. Not you. Your body will tell what you've been consuming. So what are you consuming and where are you consuming from? Because that again affects how your general outlook of everything. That's why they are saying marriage is a scam. Do you think it's a scam?
No, it's not.
The reality, even those who are saying it's a scam are not even in that relationship. But the tune has been repeated so much on social spaces, social media spaces, it's becoming the truth. It's becoming the truth. It's a scam, it's a scam, it's a scam. And people are, oh yeah, I think this thing is a scam. So what you need is someone who brings in a different tune and their voice is louder. And then again, people's perspective starts changing. But I repeat, you are what you consume. And once you consume it long enough, you don't need to tell anybody what you've been consuming. You consume junk, fine. If you hit the gym for 7 months consistently, you will not tell anybody. You meet with a friend, they go like, yeah, baby girl, you're looking good. Why? Your body is speaking because of what you have been consuming or quote unquote what you've been doing. So what you consume, eventually you become.
Yeah, I get that. Now we're in this era of social media, you know, we have gadgets. Almost everyone has a gadget you can easily just access. The internet and social media in general. And right now, we're also in that age of content creation. And if there's content that is really selling and sells very fast, it's family content, whereby the husband and wife sit down, they talk about their relationship, maybe talk about their day-to-day, involve their children and whatnot. I want to find a way of involving our conversation with that. And with this, I'm trying to look at it, you know, we try, as the people who are watching your content, sometimes we try look for issues in this family, in this marriage, you just try to look for issues. Hey, did you see today she wasn't speaking to him the way she normally does? You know, hey, did you notice they're not even following each other on social media? Would you say that this new age of social media is bringing in much more conflict, specifically in family, than before?
You know, we have keyboard warriors.
Yeah.
Very quick. Data analysts, keyboard warriors. So they're looking at you and even wondering, today, even our wig is not very well. So
Yeah,
probably it began from the house, you know, I don't think, and all that. So once you put yourself out there, you must also be ready to deal with the consequences of what is coming. Because people will not attack what they don't know.
That's very true.
How will you attack someone who you don't know where they're coming from, whether they are coming, going or gone? You have no idea. So if you want to build, for me, from where I sit, and I think it's a belief of many, when you're building, build in silence. Let people see the results. Because once you build in silence, people have no idea what or where to attack in that relationship. But if you pour it out here, we will attack you, we will body shame you, we will attack even how your eyes look, how your toes look, because it's going even to the bedroom and everything, And really, people are also exposing too much. But again, it's a free society.
Yeah.
Do what you want.
To each their own.
But be ready to deal with the consequences.
All right. Madam Elizabeth, if I may allow you to give us your parting shot.
My parting shot is that, as we said, conflicts are inevitable in relationships. But how we go about resolving and solving them is what makes a relationship stronger or destroys it. And it has to be based on communication, and not just communicating, but how effectively we communicate what we feel is hurting us. And as they say, the shoe wearer knows where the shoe pinches most. Are you willing to speak it out? And the other person, have you also had taken time when the temperatures were right to try and set the pace and the tone for the eventuality on conflicts in your relationship? So for the coffee dates, please be careful. Don't just take the coffee and enjoy the smartness of the other person. Address issues beforehand. Prepare for the unexpected, because the unexpected will one day somehow show up.
Thank you so much for joining us on this conversation. And I am sure that our viewers have gotten to pick a thing or two from this conversation, because I feel it was a really important conversation, and Madam Elizabeth has really shared a lot concerning that topic on conflict resolution in relationships. Now, this is where we put a cap to Good Morning Kenya today. My name is Vivian Degwa. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. Have a good day.